Congressman Eric Swalwell. He is a Democrat on the House Judiciary Committee. Congressman, I want you to weigh in on this idea of the role that Congress could play here in continuing an investigation.
Well, what's crazy about the whole Epstein thing is that Democrats are screaming about inflation and losing our rights. And it's actually Republicans in my district who are going nuts over wanting these files released. I've never seen anything like it. And so I think what it is that they've put up with Trump's BS for so long that they've just snapped, that he feels a sense of betrayal, as Michael alluded to. So the way Democrats see it is this. Obviously, Donald Trump is not going to release this. Elon Musk has told us why. Kash Patel is not going to be fired by Donald Trump. He's just going to go all in for him and help bury these files beneath the earth. Republicans, though, who don't work for Donald Trump, who are their own branch of government in Congress, they have a subpoena power. And if they're not going to use it, as Leader Jeffries has said, Democrats are open to receiving this information and going as far as we can, and also promising in a majority that we will unearth what the public deserves to know.
Congressman, the New York Times headline today from David French was MAGA is tearing itself apart over Jeffrey Epstein. The Epstein story mattered so much in MAGA circles because it was a key element in their indictment of America's so-called ruling class. Trump's appeal to the Republican base isn't just rooted in his supporters' extraordinary affection for the man. It's also rooted in their almost indescribably dark view of the American government. We've all felt here that was just so poignant. I think that this is a split between the faithful and the furious. Those who are faithful to Donald Trump, who literally he could, folks across the country, even people in your district that are Republicans and aren't really keyed in on this story. They don't care about it, but they still support the president. And those are the faithful. But then you've got the furious, the folks in your district and so many others, the MAGA folks with the largest followings and the bullhorns, who are the most fervent supporters, who are upset because, as Tim noted, they feel like the president lied to them.
Yeah. It doesn't matter who you pray to or which jersey you wear in your politics, whether it's red or it's blue. You hate corruption. You hate corruption at the local level, the state level, and, of course, at the highest level. And if you see a country where there's unlimited money being spent in politics, there's dirty maps in its gerrymandering, that members of Congress are allowed to trade stocks, and now the president, who promised when he got in office he would tell you about this child sex trafficking ring and who was involved and who wasn't, and now he's buried it, perhaps because he may in some way be attached to it. You just hate that. And so this isn't about, as I said, political parties or your religion or your geography. It's just most people don't want their leaders to be corrupt, and he looks corrupt in what he's doing. That's why House Republicans should use the powers they already have to give the American people what they're asking for.
Tim, to the congressman's point, they should. I think in any other world, they likely would use those powers, given the fervor within the party itself, even though there may be pockets of the country that are concerned about, storms and heat and other things that are impacting them. Within the Republican Party, this has taken on a life of its own. How do you see, or what's your best guesstimate of this narrative playing out? Is it something that, Dan Bongino decides to show up back at work and just put his head down and move into that thing with no further noise? Or does he step down? Or does the grassroots call for a more independent source away from the White House and the Department of Justice and the FBI to sort of get involved here?
Yeah, far be it for me to get inside Dan Bongino's head, Chairman. Maybe he just pulls a Costanza and shows back up to work. I don't know what he's going to do. But here's something I think is an opportunity, is how this plays out. I admire the congressman's optimism that maybe his Republican colleagues will actually do something on this one. I don't really share it, but I think that he should pressure them, and we all should continue to pressure them to do something, and I know their voters will. Here's where I think it's vulnerable, where it plays out, is I think Fox will stop talking about this. We've already heard that today. They'll get in line. The MAGA, the Trump sycophants will get in line on this and move on. But there are two groups of people that aren't. There's that group, like the manosphere of the Joe Rogans and Theo Vons and Flagrant podcasts. Those guys, they weren't on board with Trump the first time. Like, they've got on late, and they truly cared about this Epstein story and covered it and talked about it to all their followers for years, they're not just going to stop talking about it now. And they've been mocking Trump, if you listen to those shows over the last few days, for trying to play them like fools. So that group's going to keep talking about it. And then I think kind of the outsider MAGA world, the Alex Jones, the Tuckers, the Candace Owens, they're going to keep talking about it because this is their bread and butter, the conspiracy material. So, I think that there are going to be some outside forces that pressure Trump that he doesn't have as much control over as kind of like the institutional MAGA or institutional Republican Party, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. And to me, Congressman, that is a part of what is happening here, the split within MAGA world. In tandem with that, there is what Donald Trump is willing to do in order to reconsolidate his base. This from Mark Elias in Democracy Docket. Instead of focusing on Epstein, Trump directed the FBI to investigate voter fraud, political corruption, Act Blue, and the rigged and stolen election of 2020. While this may sound familiar in this context, it offers new reasons to be concerned. Trump needs action on something to divert attention from Epstein and reunify the MAGA conspiracists. Unsurprisingly, he has landed on going after his political opponents. Again, unsurprising, Congressman.
And the test now, to Tim's point, is whether Republicans will reflect what their constituents are asking for, which is it's not about the Epstein case. It's about a broader anti-corruption sentiment in this country. Will they reflect what their constituents want and use the power they have? Or will they be bullied by threats of a primary that Donald Trump has put out there on other priorities of his and just shrink? And so Democrats, I think, if we focus on rooting out corruption in government at all levels, if we understand that people are paying way too much for most of what they consume, and by the way, tomorrow I predict when the new CPI comes out, you're going to see that inflation has again year over year gone up because of the Trump tariff tax. So if we focus on anti-corruption and your costs, that's where people are right now, and it shows that we're up for the job when we have the gavels.